So in case, that means that there's 20 passengers up top and no more than 20 at one time. When you see that rope, you know what that means. And your third crew member aboard today is me. My name is Haley. I'll be I'll be your guys' tour guide, so I'll be giving you a commentary this evening. Don't worry, I won't be talking the entire time. I wouldn't want to ruin anybody's trip, but I'm not really going off the script here. I'm just going off of the stuff I know about the park. So if you guys have any questions at all, if there's something you really want to hear about, one topic you're more interested in, the lake, geology, geography, the animals, plants, anything, feel free to raise your hand or shout it out. With that, I'll just get into it here. So Upper Waterton Lake, I like to start off with some facts about the lake we're cruising on. Upper Waterton Lake happens to be the deepest natural lake in the Canadian Rocky Mountains. So it's got an average depth of 220 feet, and the deepest point, and we got a little trench at the narrow point of the lake, and that reaches a maximum depth of 487 feet deep, just shy of 500 feet deep. So that's like taking the Calgary Tower. Any folks from Calgary aboard today? Yeah, a few. That's like taking the Calgary Tower and dropping it down into that trench we have. You'd barely be able to see the red part, the little restaurant. That would be the only thing poking above the water. So that goes to show just how deep it really is. It's the longest and narrowest of the three lakes. So it's a chain. Twice Waterton Lakes, Thorough National Park. We've got Middle Waterton Lake off the back of the boat. It's pretty hard to make out from here, but those red and green buoys you might have seen, that's the shallow area where Middle Waterton Lake begins, and then it'll flow off into a little bit of a river system and connect up with Lower Waterton Lake, which you would have seen driving into the national park today. So this lake is about 1 kilometer to 1.5 kilometers wide. It varies in areas. Right here where we're at is actually the widest point of the lake. So from this shoreline here over to Cameron Bay is our widest spot of the lake. Aside from that, it's pretty narrow, and it's 11 kilometers in length, so pretty long. It runs pretty much north-south, and so the very south end is Oakmont, Montana. Tonight we're going to be sticking in close to the shoreline. That's made possible by the shape of the lake, which is shaped kind of like your bathtub at home, like a little view. So it's very steep off the edges here, rounds out at the bottom, and then steep again. So being this close to the shoreline in a boat this big is actually very safe. Right now, we're probably in about 100 feet of water right now. So there are some places where you can be 5 feet away from the shore and already is 50 to 100 feet of water like we are now. And there are some cliff spots as well, which we'll cruise by tonight. And these cliff spots, you can be just 1 to 2 feet off the shore and already in over 100 feet of water, well over. So much like a bathtub, like a letter U. And if you're looking out into Upper Waterton Valley ahead, you might notice how the valley too is kind of shaped like a U. All the mountains kind of slope down to the lake here, and that's caused by glaciers. So billions of years ago, really long time ago, this area was covered in an inland sea. It was called the Belt Sea, and only the highest mountain peaks around this area would have been visible above the water. And so glaciers, these sheets of ice, kilometers thick, move through the valley. They scrape against the rock, carving it all out into the shape it is now. So that's why it's such a deep lake. It's actually still fed by glaciers. So there are no more glaciers over the Waterton side, but down in Glacier National Park, they have 22 active glaciers. 3 of those feed into Upper Waterton River, which is our main tributary for this lake. So that's the Thunderbird, the Dixon, and the Carter. And they're not visible from any vantage point we have on the lake. They're kind of tucked away in the mountains down in Montana. But that glacier water is what makes it so cold and so mineral rich. Pretty chilly water. Has anybody been out swimming today? No? Oh, one person did? Oh, she went swimming. You're brave. I went swimming today too, before it turned very cold. The water is more chilly today than usual for this time of the year because of all the rainfall. So it takes a lot to make this lake warm up, and it does not take a lot to make it cold. So beginning of the year, I should say beginning of the summer season, May, June, the water will be between 3 and 5 degrees Celsius, so just right about freezing. At this point in the season, it's warmed up to 12 to 15 degrees Celsius, so a bit warmer, but definitely not something people usually enjoy swimming in. It's kind of the lake where you jump in, scream, get out. That's why there's not a lot of traffic here on the water, not a lot of water sports, as well as the fact that it's pretty hard to launch a boat here. You guys might have seen the signs that said no outside watercraft allowed. So this is a UNESCO Natural World Heritage Site. So Waterton has a lot of really cool distinctions that other than just a national park. It's an international peace park. It's the World Heritage Site. It's also a World Biosphere Reserve. It's a very unique place, a very unique environment here, and it's recognized around the world and in Canada how this place needs to be protected. So very clean, fresh water. We want to keep it that way. And so there's lots of invasive species coming in from other provinces and states that we don't want in the lake. So that's why it's hard to launch a boat here. You can fish on the lake though. Fishing is allowed, which is interesting because foraging for berries, you can't come here and make pails of berries and leave. They're not going to let you leave with those. You can't hunt here. You can't trap. Fish. So back in the 1950s-ish, before they knew better, they stocked the lakes with fish. So some were the native species and some weren't. They all get along, thrive, they live healthily here in the water. It's oxygen, mineral-rich water, so they've got a very healthy population. And they stocked the lakes to draw in tourism, so people had something to do when they came here. And so now there's such a big, healthy population of the fish that they're not as protected. You're allowed to fish for them. You can catch and keep up to 2 per day, except for the native species, the bull trout. They're more protected, so if you catch a bull trout in this lake, you have to release it. But 24 different species of fish here. So lots of trout, lake trout, golden trout, rainbow trout, brown trout, cutthroat trout, all sorts. They're called Mackinac as well. And there's 3 different species of whitefish. There's freshwater lingcod, sometimes called burbot. There's deepwater sculpins and northern pike. And there's also Arctic grayling as well. We have some mammals who live in the water as well. So there's beavers and muskrats and river otters too. And they make their way up to the alpine lakes too. You guys might be noticing this dock off to the left-hand side of the boat we're passing here. That's the landing for the Crypt Lake hike. Raise your hand if you've heard of the Crypt Lake hike. Anybody hear of it? Yeah? A couple of you? It's very popular. So it was rated by National Geographic as one of the top 20 most thrilling hikes to do on planet Earth. So not this one here, the Crypt Lake hike, that's the dock there is the landing for it. Yeah, and so not just for the province, not for the country, for planet Earth. Really cool shout out for our little national park. And I really do believe it's I can't even say one of the best, it's truly the best day hike to do in the national park. So why is it thrilling? Why did it receive that kind of distinction? It's because of the terrain you're traversing, your obstacles or objectives. So the majority of the hike, it's about 8.5 kilometers one way. So 17-kilometer round trip. And most of the way, you're switchbacking through the forest between Mount Vimy here, off the left and behind, and Mount Boswell ahead and off the left. You'll come out into the subalpine area. You're going to cross 2 waterfalls and come out in the subalpine, cross the Spree section, and then there's your obstacles. And so that is a 14-foot ladder bolted into the mountain wall, which you climb up. And then you find yourself at the mouth of a natural tunnel in the rock, naturally occurring. And so you go through the tunnel. It's pretty narrow. It's about the length of this boat, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And then you come out to the cliff section where you're holding onto a chain, also bolted into the mountain wall just for extra safety. You hold onto the chain and you cross the cliff section. And so there is a bit of a trail along the cliff, 600-foot drop next to you, and then you're going along the trail that's no wider than this aisleway here. And after that, I've only done it once, one time. I gotta do it more. But after that, you're just a single hop and a leap away from Crib Lake. And so if you guys have a fear of heights or maybe claustrophobia, that's one sure way to get rid of it. If you guys are looking off to the right-hand side of the boat, you're going to notice all the standing deadfall here. Gray, burnt trees, and you might think, what happened there? Some of you guys probably know, but in 2017, a wildfire, the Keenan wildfire, swept through our national park. I'll just interrupt myself for 1 second. Look off the left-hand side of the boat, and you're going to see a bald eagle flying down the shoreline. That was spotted by Captain Ricky here. The eyes of an eagle. So there it goes. Fun fact there, eagles mate for life, and they return to the same nest every summer. So we've had that pair of nesting bald eagles living along our shoreline for around 10 years. They come back here every summer. About that fire. Sorry. I almost forgot what I was talking about. It's hard to miss though. So if you're looking there, you're going to see the extent of the damage, but at the same time, you're going to see the extent of the regrowth. So that wildfire burned 70% of the forested area in our national park in just 24 hours. So in one day, it was completely torched. Started by lightning, so it was natural, and they discovered it, they decided to let it burn. They didn't know how unfortunate the fire would become. It got out of control very quickly due to the wind here. So you guys probably wouldn't be able to tell by a day like today where it's so calm and not windy at all really. But we are the wind capital of Canada here in southern Alberta and Waterton. So that weather phenomenon, the Chinook winds, is very intense here. Very, very windy area. And so that wind, we saw wind speeds during the wildfire that reached 80 kilometers per hour, fanning and fueling the flames onto an old dry forest. So it was just barreling towards the town site of Waterton. And if you look off to the back of the boat, you're going to see how close that wildfire came to our little town. It's like a green oasis in all those dead trees. We owe a lot of debt, a lot of gratitude to the firefighters from all over the province who came into our town site and saved it from certain destruction. Waterton wouldn't be standing today if it weren't for them. They're well organized and brave efforts. So at the very end of the fire, it was put out mostly by the north wind. A little bit of a weather system. We had blow-in, some cold weather and rain, and it pushed the fire back where it was extinguished out here on these slopes off to the right-hand side of the boat. We're very thankful that no human lives were lost and no buildings directly in the town site were affected. There was a lot of damage though. The road driving up to Cameron Lake, Acromina Parkway Drive, was reduced to liquid. The asphalt melted off the mountain. So a very brutal fire. but it's healthy for the forest. It's all part of the life cycle of these forests here. Everything is very intimately connected here in nature, and that's not excluding us as humans. This is our natural habitat too. This is where we evolved. And so we use the lake water to help protect our town from the wildfire. And this lake water will travel all throughout Canada, out into the Hudson's Bay, flowing, be watering farmers' crops. And those crops are turning into things that end up in your grocery stores. So it's cool to recognize ash fertilized the forest floor. And then we saw so many plants, vascular plants in bloom, just fully grow up, so healthy now, which invited lots of ungulates, hoofed animals like moose, elk, bighorn sheep, mule deer, white-tailed deer. They're all coming back to those slopes to eat, which invites our predators back. So wolves and cougars will come back to eat those. And so those predators rely on the prey rely on the plants, and the health of the plants and the health of the forest relies on a wildfire every now and then. So Mother Nature has a way of population control out here. She calls the shots for sure. But trying to pick apart just one thing here, you're going to find it connected to almost every other thing. But for the biggest mammal in the national park, who thinks they have an idea of what the biggest mammal we have here in our national park is? I want to hear your guesses. Moose is what I hear most commonly, other than grizzly bear. It's actually the bison or the buffalo. So 1 to 2 tons. They don't get enough love. So don't leave the national park without stopping by their paddock. But they're very, very big animals. The biggest ungulate we have in the national park. Here is slowing down the boat. We're approaching the cliff face. Don't worry guys, we're going to drive straight into it. I'm kidding around. You're going to see some excellent boat maneuvering here as he pulls us in close to get a glimpse at this. Really cool example of the Lewis Overthrust, which formed our Rocky Mountain Range here in southern Alberta. This is where the North American tectonic plate met up with the Pacific one. They pushed up, and all the foothills, you don't see foothills around here, you see prairies and then mountains. The plates actually went over the foothills, buried them, and so older rock went over younger rock. Waterton is sometimes referred to as the land of upside down mountains for that reason. Because why is the old rock on top? But that's why, that Lewis Overthrust, yeah, really cool. Another really cool thing about this place, it's the local cliff jumping spot, with the highest spot to jump off of being 150 feet, which is a little bit sketchy.
How deep is the water?
The water here is at least 100 feet, if not more.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so just a couple feet off the cliff, and you're just as steep as it looks above water is exactly what it looks like below. And so one jump is included in the price of your ticket. Who wants to go first? A couple of volunteers, great souls. Okay, everybody stay on the boat. But this is a really, really cool formation, and there's a little triangle shape, a little bit of an A-shaped formation. I might have missed pointing that out, pointed it out too late, but if you might be able to catch it, just above the water, a little bit of a triangle. That back there is what geologists would call a chevron fold. And so it looks like a triangle because it's where rock moved, and it bends and it buckled, and instead of snapping and breaking, it folded down over. I don't know how many of you guys have ever folded a rock, but they don't do that. And that was with no heat pressure added. That was just intense pressure of the plates moving. So that occurred roughly 2 billion years ago. rock jutting out off to the left-hand side of the boat is referred to as Blacktail Point. And that little cave you spot there is said to be the home of Waterton's lake monster, Frederick, a friendly, 80-foot-long salamander. According to the kids in camp, local kids, that's what they tell me when they go on the boat. And now off to the right-hand side of the boat, just on that shoreline there is Dead Horse Point. That one. And these two make the most narrow spots into the lake, so beneath this boat, you wouldn't reach the bottom of the lake for 487 feet. A little bit of a trench here. And so those deep water sculpins I mentioned, they stay to the very bottom, and they rely on the pressure to stay alive. Scientists tried to do research on them because they're believed to be a relic species. Somehow they survived the last ice age. And they stayed down to the very depths, so they're a really odd, interesting species of fish. So they dropped cages down, fished them up, wanted to study them, but when they reached the surface of the lake, they were dead. They rely on that intense pressure to stay alive. And so this bay we're passing off to the right-hand side of the boat is referred to as Sawmill Bay. Because back before this was protected as a national park, people, there was a sawmill here. They cut down the trees, and they used the wood from the trees to build some of the very old cabins back in Waterton.
Wow.
And then it became a protected natural area, national park, and that was no longer okay. So the legend has it that when they used horses to carry stuff back to Waterton, the lake froze over early one year. So they went to pull all their stuff out of the bay, and they were using horses, and unfortunately some of them got away from their owners. They ran out onto the lake, which was freshly frozen, and they fell through and drowned. So that's why that's referred to as Dead Horse Point. And when it was no longer allowed to cut down the trees there are steamboats they used during the summertime to take the wood back to Waterton. Their steamboat had to be taken out of the national park. It was called the Gertrude, over 100 years old. And in those days, it was very hard to remove a boat from the lake like that. So what they did is they scuttled it, purposefully sank it to the bottom of Emerald Bay. So Emerald Bay, just down from the Prince of Wales, there's still that 100-year-old boat, the Gertrude, that lies at the bottom. And not many people know about that there, but people put on their wetsuits and their scuba diving gear and they go check it out. That's part of what makes this World Heritage Site. There's a lot of heritage here, a lot of history. So being a World Heritage Site and a World Biosphere Reserve and an international peace park, what that all means basically is we're cooler than Banff and Jasper. Right?
Less populated too.
So coming up here off to the right-hand side of the boat, we're getting a better look here at some of these cliffs too. And I'm going to point out one little tree here off the right-hand side of the boat. This one lone tree growing just above the water. That's Jeremy's favorite tree. And so you might think, how does it grow just right out of the rock like that? I don't know how many of you guys maybe have a garden at home. You've tried to plant trees, landscape, and they just die. And then you'll come out to a place like this and see one growing out of the rock and think, what is going on? So that orange color across the rocks is lichen. It's a symbiotic relationship between algae and a fungus, where the fungus is sturdy and keeps it down, hooked onto the rocks, and the algae is filtering nutrients out of the air, and they work together. They live on the rocks. They're the first organism to grow on the rocks. And what happens is, as they die and break down, decompose, they're breaking down the rock beneath them into something soil-like. And so that orange color spread across the rocks, that lichen, is the reason that the moss and the trees, the grasses, all of that is able to grow on a seemingly uninhabitable area. We have over 200 species of those lichen in the national park. So there's a lot for biodiversity here. Lots of plants, 1,200 different species of muscular plants, 600 of those being wildflowers. We're unofficially making the wildflower capital of Alberta. And lots of biodiversity for animals as well. 200 different species of birds, 60 different species of mammals, 24 species of fish. It's a very rich area. It's made possible by the environment you see around you, where the prairies immediately meet the peaks. Such a very unique area, and you might not even know that just by seeing a picture online from Waterton or hearing about our park. There's so much more than meets the eye here.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Alright guys, we're slowing down. If you look off to the left-hand side of the boat, for those of you in the main cabin, you might have to crouch down a little to see all the way up to the top. But there's a clear line running in the forest up Mount Boswell there. Who knew trees didn't grow on the border? I'm joking. They are cut down. We take a team of trained beavers. They'll clear it up. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's actually trail crew. So Glacier and Waterton, they clear that out. And that over off to the right hand side of the boat is another look at that border. A cut line running up Mount Richards. And a pair of obelisks, or stone markers. One's metal, one's stone. My bad. And those officially mark a surveyor's perspective of the 49th parallel. 49 degrees north latitude, that's our border between Canada and the USA, which also happens to be the longest undefended border in the history of the world. So, for Canadians and Americans alike, that's something to be proud of. The valley is beautiful at this time of day. I think the 6:30 cruise is perfect. I think this is the only place on the international border where you can get away with doing donuts right on the borderline, facing no repercussions at all. Captain here is doing us a bit of a pivot. Everybody can see both sides without having to move. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you, Captain Ricky.
And so this bay here is Boundary Bay. Very creative name. Symbolizes the name for the boundary between the countries. And so with that, I'll officially welcome everyone into Glacier National Park in Montana, USA. Welcome to America, everybody. So the reason we can cross this border, no border patrol, no customs, no passports, no questions asked, is because this is an international peace park, which means these two parks are joined and they preserve this area as one. It's all one and the same natural area. And so that was established as an international peace park in 1932, about 20 years after both these parks were established. So the slogan or phrase they used to lobby to their governments, the Rotarians of the Rotary Clubs, they went to their government saying, if nature sees no boundary, why should we? Because this is all the same environment, same habitat, same ecosystem. Coming up here off to the right hand side of the boat, you guys are looking at Boundary Creek in the foreground, flowing off the Herb Snowfield on Mount Custer, and in the background the Citadel Peaks coming off Porcupine Ridge. The Blackfoot peoples called the Citadel Peaks Optimuxus, meaning the needles or the quills reaching for the heavens. And so those individual pinnacles and spires pointing to the sky were whittled out and carved out by glaciers all that long time ago. And Boundary Creek, that's some of the freshest water you're going to see all around this park, and it's away from the #1 pollutant out here, which is us, humans, right? There's no towns, there's none of us living out here, so nothing really extremely harmful in the creek. Locals do drink out of the creeks around here. We don't recommend it professionally though. There's always that chance of beaver fever, so filter your water. So to name a couple of the mountain peaks here, I don't know how many of you guys are able to see it from the main cabin, but looking straight off ahead of the boat, the mountain peak, it's a little more to the left-hand side now actually. That mountain peak that looks like a perfect triangle. Right up there, that's Mount Cleveland, and it's the tallest mountain in the International Peace Park, with a height of 10,466 feet. And it's most impressive because of the north face, which is about a mile just up and down. Over more to the left-hand side of the boat, it's a little more, it's coming into view off the front. This mountain with the bowl and all that red rock there is Mount Mishuabin. So that's a Cree word in Blackfoot territory, but it's meaning beautiful dawn. And all that red rock, that's argillite, and it's iron in the rock which has been oxidized. Give us that beautiful color. You'll see lots of that around here. Lots of sedimentary rock, so shale, dolomites, limestone, all that kind of stuff. It's very crumbly rock. So if you're summiting any mountains, keep that in mind. Don't trust anything you grab or step on, actually. Down at the south end of the lake is Goat Haunt, Montana. Densest populated area for grizzly bears in the lower 48 states. Up here in Waterton, for grizzly bear populations, we have about 25. That's a rough estimate for Parks Canada, and about 200 to 300 black bears. Bears are not our apex predator in the national park. It's actually the cougars. And so our bears are mostly herbivores, vegetarians. Hikers and tourists are not on the menu. That's good news. What they eat, majority of their diet is going to be the roots and bulbs of plants, insects, particularly army cutworm moths. They'll eat a lot of berries. When I say a lot, think however much you're thinking, think more. They can eat 100,000 berries in just one day. So that's 20,000 calories. And they can eat berries for 20 hours a day. They go into a bit of a frenzy for the berries around this time of year when it's in full bloom. So don't let the bears scare you off the hiking trails. I'll say that now. They're a little smaller than the coastal bears, like the ones you see out in BC, which can reach 1,000 pounds. Our bears here, a large black bear would be around maybe 300 pounds, and a large grizzly bear would be maybe 600 pounds. But typically you'll see them smaller than that. So they're not very big. They're pretty chill herbivores. They're not chill when you run their cubs, though. So that's why we say when you're out hiking, make noise. Make noise. You want them to hear you. You want them to know you're around. Because when they hear you, it's actually been proven by radio collaring, they get off the trail. They're not interested in us. Those cougars, though, they're intense predators, especially for the ungulates. They love the deer. So that's why you might see mule deer all over the town, littered throughout the town. It's safer for them in our town than out in these forests where the cougars are actively stalking them. We're slowing down again. I'll get everyone to look off to the left-hand side of the boat now. And so we were just over there across the lake. And that cut line is running up Mount Richards. We have a bit of a better view of it, rolling over the hills. And in the background, that mountain in the valley is Mount Custer. And that's the Herb Snowfield, so it's exactly where Boundary Creek, runs off of. And now, just coming into view off to the right-hand side of the boat, is the cut line running up Mount Boswell. So if you guys are wanting to see that from the main cabin here, you're ducking down a lot. And so they say there's a, well, there is an obelisk at the very top of the mountain there. I've never been able to see it from the boat, though. But if you guys have a good camera, maybe binoculars, you might be able to spot that one there. But there's just a little obelisk here in the brush, just up from the water. Kind of hard to pick out. It's due to be cleared out in the next 3 to 5 years. So that side's a bit overgrown. They send trail crews up there, so typically we're contract. Cruises. I set the mic down.
For 10 minutes.
You guys have any?
Two people. I and someone else. Four. Two people. When it's 40 minutes, I'm just 2 more minutes. There's a bug on me. We already passed it.